CSS Grid is the latest, most modern layout system offered by CSS language. It gives us practically ultimate design freedom, but it comes with a price of complexity and reduced compatibility. For example, if your audience still uses Internet Explorer 10 or 11, it supports CSS Grid only partially. If they use version 9 or lower, it is not supported at all. Themeco made sure that in those minority cases the site still looks somewhat normal. But the world needs to go on. Internet Explorer users are used to see broken sites anyway. Firefox and Chrome are not supporting CSS Grid in version released before 2017. Nonetheless, the market is mature enough that we can use it, except in very specific cases when we are targeting perhaps older audience. They might not be updated due to the lack of technical knowledge. So what is all the fuss about CSS Grid? Well, it is all about the incredible flexibility it provides us in designing web pages. Before CSS Grid, Flexbox was a huge step when it came out. But there is a problem. Remember how we can switch the Flexbox layout from columns to rows and back? Well, that's exactly the problem. We can choose either one or the other. It is always one-dimensional. CSS Grid, on the other hand, is two-dimensional. This means that we can have both rows and columns at the same time. Let's drop our first grid to the page. So the first thing we see are 15 starting layouts that Themeco has prepared for us. Let's start with the 4-column layout. This essentially looks identical to the row container, and these look like 8 columns. However, the big difference lies in something behind them, something that we cannot see right now. In my opinion, the best way to master the CSS Grid is to see it in action first. So this is not going to be a classic lesson. I'm not going to explain things in high details now. I want you to get a good foundations first. So sit back and relax. We are going to dissect the concept of CSS Grid in this and in the next lesson. After that, it will be much easier to learn the options of this fantastic, versatile element. Before we go there, let me show you a Photoshop file. Let me turn this color to red so we can have a better contrast. So what we see here is a standard 12-column grid layout. This is the layout used by the designers when creating website mockups. For example, let me put an image placeholder here. Let's add a text area on the right side. So how would we recreate this in the Pro theme? Well, the answer is very simple. We would add a row with 2 columns. We would put an image element into the left column and we would put the text element into the right column. That's possible because we have 2 key elements in the theme. We have the row and we have the column elements. In Photoshop, we can create these green lines called guides. We can easily create them if we go to View, New Guide Layout. Let's check Clear Existing Guides. So we want 12 columns. And we want 20 pixels of gutter. Let's throw in 6 rows as well. So we now got our layout. These are guides. They are nothing but alignment lines for our columns. Let's create a simpler layout with no gutters. A simple 12 by 6 grid. And let me align the picture and the text to it. So how would we describe what we see? We have an image. This image horizontally starts at line 2. It ends at line 7. The text starts at line 8. It ends at line 12. Vertically, the image starts at line 2 and it ends at line 5. The text also starts at line 2, but it ends at line 4. Now, what if we do this? The image still starts at line 2 and ends at line 7. However, the text now starts at line 6. Let's open the New Guide Layout window again. Wouldn't it be great if we could create these guides so we can align content to them? Of course it would, and they do exist in CSS Grid and they are called tracks. Let's go back to our CSS Grid. Let's delete all these cells except one. See this settings section that says Grid Layout? This is where we create our guides. See this icon in the top right corner? Let's click it. Let's create the same 12x6 grid we have been working with in the Photoshop mockup. I'm going to say repeat 12 times 1 fraction. We will get back to this later. For now, let's create our rows. Repeat 6 times 1 fraction. We could add in our 20 pixel gutter too, but that's a more complex layout, and we won't be doing that for now. So let's delete the gutter. Okay, let's create our 2 cells. In the Photoshop file, the image cell was spanning horizontally from line 2 to line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Vertically, it was spanning from line 2 to line 3, 4, 5. Let's click on the grid element in the breadcrumbs and let's add in another cell, the one we want for our text element. Let's position it by numbers. Let's click into the cell, and we said we want it to span from line 6 to line 12 and vertically from line 2 to line 4. Let's drag these orange boxes and rearrange our grid a bit. And let's have 3 rows only. We don't need the extra ones for this layout. As a matter of fact, we have too many columns for what we need as well. Let's change our column count to 8. Now, our column template is trying to have 8 rows, but it has some strange extra rows here. What in the world is going on? Oh wait, we were moving our cells, so their coordinates are not the same anymore. So our text cell is trying to span to line 11 now, and the grid layout is now explicitly set to have 8 columns. So that's why we see this extra stuff. Let's align the right side of the cell to the line 8. Great, the extra generated tracks are gone. It looks much cleaner now. Okay, let's turn off our layout preview. Let's drop our image element here. Now we will drop the text element into the right cell. Quickly paste the lorem ipsum into it. We'll make it 2 M's and white. Let's put our reddish background to the grid so we can see the text. But now we are missing our paddings on the grid. We are going to use extra columns and rows to create them. We will turn our grid preview back on. Let's go to the grid layout and click this little gear icon. Okay, with the plus sign, we are going to add another unit. Double-click and change it to 2 rems. This has created the track that we are going to use for our right padding. To create the left padding, we are going to copy this one and drag it above our grid layout. Now we have the left track for our future left padding. So now our layout has 10 columns. On the left and on the right side, it has columns explicitly defined as 2 rems. In between, it has equal columns repeated 8 times. It has 8 equal fractions. That's what the FR stands for. They are all 1 fraction, so that is why they are equal. Okay, let's do the same thing with the rows layout to create our top and bottom track for our future top and bottom paddings. We will copy this and paste it below. And change the 8 back to 3. Let's move the image to place it correctly. And the text. Let's evaluate the result. Maybe the picture will look better if we align it to the line 6. Let's move the text to the left and make it wider. So this is visually close to our initial Photoshop mockup. Let's make it responsive in the next movie. See you there.